the time to air all your views. Is that okay? Phoebe? We also have Professor Helen Otieno, who is the Director of Business in Strathmore Business School, who'll be joining us virtually. She's not here physically. We also have Angela Odero, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Rio Fish. Angela, kindly grace us with your presence. A round of applause for her. Thank you very much. Charity Ndagwa, who's the co-founder and director of Operations Exotic EPZ. Where art thou, Charity? Oh, there she is. And finally, we have Mr. David Odundo, who's the SME Cluster Manager of Absa SME Banking. David? So these are very able panelists. All right, last round of applause as David takes his seat. All right, I don't know if we have Professor Otieno, sorry. Professor Otieno, who's supposed to be joining us virtually. Okay, fantastic. Then let's just kickstart our conversation. And I'll start off with Phoebe and Gabriel. Here's my question to you. What are the key challenges facing women SMEs in regards to accessing financing from where you sit? We'll start off with Phoebe.
Good morning. Good
afternoon.
I think I didn't enjoy my lunch, that's why it's still morning. Huh?
Very nice.
Yeah, my name is Phoebe Owuor from the village of Eldoret, and thank you very much, Nina, for the question. Ordinarily, when you meet any enterprise, you bump into them along the road, and you request them to tell you what the big challenge is, both women and men. The question that will come out, or the answer that will come out, is give me the 2 M's and please leave me alone so that I can continue. Then you wonder, is that it? Are the 2 M's enough? There are 5 key resources that any business or any enterprise requires to be able to scale and grow. You know them all, but I'll focus on one. A lot of times, when the enterprise tells you to give them the 2 M's, which is give me money and give me the market and leave me alone to do my stuff, then you step back and ask yourself, is the money and the market enough to give them opportunity to grow, to give them opportunity to scale? Not always, and many times not at all. Among the 5 resources, there's one particular one that I love picking on, and I rate it as the first and number 1 resource for any business, and that is information. Not just information, but relevant information. Not just relevant, but effective and efficient and timely information. That is one of the biggest challenges that our business and our enterprises face. This applies across the board, for women and for men.
All right.
If you find that you have the right information, you'll be able to hire very good human resource to support your initiative and your agenda and your business. If you have the right information, you'll be able to know how to access that fund, where to go to, where to borrow from, and what kind of interest rates to negotiate. If you have the right information, you'll be able to create your market and sustain it and create more market, as opposed to me giving you the market and giving you the money and leaving you alone. It's not different for the women. and it's more challenging for the women to be able to release or unlock funding. It has given us a lot of struggle to support our sisters in the business space. Hence my question in the morning. And one of the biggest challenge is collateral, and it will remain collateral and collateral. All the title deeds in this room, if I'll ask any girl to stand up who owns 2 titles to her name, you'll get either none or one. And yet a lot of finance is pegged on collateral. A lot of finance is pegged on assets. Why do the women miss information? They miss the information because accessing that information is not easy. Accessing that information is not timely. If you get to the rural setting where a lot of development agendas are implemented, many times if you go to a session, you'll find that there are more men than women. If you look at the list you're given, there are women in the list. But when you go to the actual situation, you'll find a lot of men. And you ask why. You are told Mama was busy, the child was sick, so I've come to take in the information for her to pass it on. Hardly does that information leave the head of that man to be passed on to the woman. So I brought in 2 things. 1 is information. 2 is accessing the financial securities that we need to be able to unlock finance. The banks today morning were telling us about having packages or products that they have deliberately packaged for women. Yes, they have. But at the end of it, the collateral comes in still. The collateral comes in still. Even when they are given money like what our CEO Roger and his team has done, there's still collateral.
Okay, Phoebe, if I could just hold that thought. I'd like to jump in with this particular question. With all the hindrances that you've mentioned when it comes to women SME financing, from where you sit, as an expert that you are, what solutions are you implementing to address these barriers and strengthen financing for women SMEs?
Thank you, Nina. This is a tall order and it should be collective. This is a tall order and it should be collective. And the most important person in this mix are the men. That is where the importance is embraced, is the men. To be able to allow their women to use their collaterals to borrow, number 1. Number 2, also to allow these women to own property, to have some of the properties in their name. Number 3 is to be able to allow these women to access information, both physically and virtually. 80% of our population or 70% of our population lives in the rural area. And you find that in the rural area, there's a lot of limitation in terms of accessing information in many of these platforms that we play about with. So how are they going to access this information? It goes back to the development partners to look for means and ways of ensuring that this information is packaged properly and reaches these women who are looking for means and ways of retaining their businesses and growing their businesses and scaling. What I've done, Nina, we've taken very deliberate steps to isolate and identify women who could have collateral, whatever it is. We've also taken initiative of actually addressing their husbands and telling them the importance of empowering their women with their collateral to be able to borrow, to be able to use their titles, to be able to access funding.
All right. So for Gabriel and David, would you say you share the same views as Phoebe when it comes to that question? And allow me to repeat. What solutions are you implementing to address these barriers and strengthen financing for women? We'll start off with you.
Okay, thanks. David here. I work for Absa Bank. I look after the SME business and most importantly the women in business. So a couple of things have been raised and I would like to array the fears that are in that collateral is one of the consideration. To the contrary, if you look at the proposition that actually we've developed even from Absa, is we are saying we are much more into the cash flows of the business as compared to the collateral. And we are able now to lend up to 10 million unsecured for women in business particularly. And as we progress towards above 10 million, we have partnered with like-minded partners, the African Guarantee Scheme, the government guarantee, just to make sure that this issue of collateral is addressed and is not a hindrance for any businesswoman who needs money to be affected at all. So to that extent, I would like to say that access to financing for women has been one of our key pillars of what we've come up at Absa Bank. And not only access to financing, we've looked at a woman on a couple of other areas that they would need. For example, they need the markets, and she did say about markets. Markets are important. They need access to relevant business information. Not only that, they also need mentorship and coaching. Because when you're coming to the bank, we're not looking at from the aspect of coming to borrow. Perhaps you're coming and you don't have a borrowing need, but how do we treat you? Yeah? And then we also exposing you to networking opportunities and exposing you to other people who have been through the journey, who are telling their stories. More recently, we had the Inspire Me conference, where we had Gina Dean, giving her story. And people were motivated, and people said, I can resonate to what you're saying. So those are some of the initiatives that we've come up to address some of the issues that have been perennially affecting the women in business.
All right, thank you very much. David, Gabriel, your sentiments on the same? Oh.
Okay, so thank you for that, David. Ideally, what we do at Raising Capital and Investment is we are an advisory firm. So basically what we do is structure transactions, give transaction advisory, and also fundraise for businesses. And this cuts across small and medium enterprises, women-owned businesses, and also large businesses. But the most important thing for us, we recognize ourselves as an aid to trade between businesses and financiers. So ideally for us is to enable to meet that challenge of information of how to structure your business, to be able to access financing either from banks or other venture capital providers, or even private equity providers. So the idea is we structure in a way that taking a case where a woman-owned business does not have assets, and granted, most SMEs do not have assets to talk about. So the idea is look for a structure that works in terms of, as David has well mentioned, some financiers, some investors look at cash flows, and most of them look at cash flows actually. And what is the projection towards getting, what is your dream? What is your story? Where do you want to go? And we are able to structure that story, not just structure that story, but also structure the business in a way that is attract investment and attract funders towards that business. So it's about information sharing, it's about structuring the business, and also walking that journey with that SME or that women-owned business towards that funding. At the end of the day, I think we also need to recognize that if it's a small business, the time that it takes to get the right kind of funding for that business may be different. And if it's a large business, the time it takes to fund that business may be different. But the idea is to be able to communicate that to the entrepreneur, to be able to realize that at the end of the day, we'll be able to get to that goal. Because for us to be able to take a business, it's because it's a good business and it has impact to the society. So definitely we will work with that business over that period of time to get to that place where they are able to access funding. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Angela and Charity, you own SMEs. You own SMEs and you're running SMEs. I want to hear your thoughts on what you have just had from the inception of this conversation. What are your thoughts? I'll start off with you.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you, Nina. My name is Charity. I run together with two ladies, the only women-owned and led macadamia processing factory in Kenya. And this is an industry that is highly capital intensive, even when it's a startup. Our minimum order quantity, because we are dealing with the export market, so it's high volume. And what that means that even when you are starting, you need quite a huge capital outlay. We are working with smallholder farmers, and there's no credit with smallholder farmers. So you need a lot of capital to be able to pay the smallholder farmers. There's a lot of time, that between 30 to 40 days that you need to take to process the product and sell. And again, you're also not being paid immediately. You still have about 30, 40 days credit period from the customers. So information, yes, I want to agree with that, because I remember when we were starting our business, if I knew that banks don't fund startups, would not have wasted time going to 41 banks. 41 banks that
How long did that even take you? 41 banks?
It took a long time. 41 banks, and everybody say the same thing. We want you to prove your concept. We want to see a bit of traction. Unfortunately, for women, still people require you to prove your concept once and twice and 3 times before you come back. So yes, information is power. I totally agree with that. Collateral is still an issue, David, unfortunately, even now. Because that's the question that we got. I mean, where is your collateral? Can I see a title? I went to my grandmother to get a title. I don't have a husband, so I didn't even have a husband to go and ask for a title. And my colleagues who have husbands, it was still a challenge, you see? So collateral is still there. Up to today, we are still being asked for collateral. There's still something that needs to be done. Our business is now bankable. We are 5 years old. We are exporting to countries in US, in Europe, and Asia. But that question still comes in, even when the business is bankable. To an extent that right now, we do not have a single local financier who is funding our business. Everybody, all the financiers that we have are impact funders. They are from Netherlands, they are from the US, they are from Belgium. We still do not have homegrown solutions that are able to cater for a business like ours. It's not even about being a women-led business now, because this is a viable business. The concept has been proved. You can see it's a viable business. The cash flows are there. But still, homegrown solutions are not there. So we have been left at the mercy of international companies, and what that means, because they are able to structure their financing to meet our needs, then the cost of capital becomes high. Because if we do not have homegrown solutions and local financial institutions that we can have a conversation, but because we don't have collateral, somebody comes and says, I have the money, you need the money, but this is what I'm willing to give you. This is the interest rate I'm going to give you. So if you can't, if you don't want this, if the cost of financing is too high, then you can't access that funding.
And as we prepare to give Angela the stage as well, crossing over to the rest of the room, are there any questions thus far that you'd like for our panelists to answer?
Are there any questions? Okay. Hi, my name is Melanie. I have a question for the gentleman from APSA, that's David Omundo. He talked about 10 million unsecured loans for the women. Would you break it down for us, like say, in 2022, we were able to give this much. This is how much the loan book is for the unsecured loans, and in specific numbers, the number of women businesses. That shows us like you're really doing it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now,
Nina, there's probably just one we can take them concurrently.
The comments from Charity have nearly brought tears to my eyes, and I can relate because girls don't even dream of business. It's hard to see privilege when you're privileged. So I guess the question I have today for the banks in the forum, what are the programs you have for girls to teach them about money and how they can access it so that business becomes a dream they can have?
throwing it back to you, Nina. You can take it up.
All right, now before the financial institutions or those representing financial institutions get to answer, let's listen to Angela's story. Angela, talk to us.
Thank you, Nina. Good afternoon. My name is Angela Odero. I'm the CEO of Rio Fish Limited. We work with smallholder farmers. We grow fish. We aggregate fish from the smallholder farmers. In raising finance from the financial institutions, it's been quite a challenge because the business is very capital intensive, and the people we work with do not want to pay you cash. So you have to have money to be able to even buy the fish, and then when you sell, people want to be given credit. Now when I go back to my bank, it's the same old story. We want collateral. Now in my case, that collateral is not even my fish in the water. They want something else. So they want something outside of my business. They won't even look at my fish. They look at my cash flows. They're happy with that, but they don't want to hear anything about the product I'm selling or the product I'm growing. They just want to know, what else can I bring? They ask you for something tangible like land, other assets. Your cages in the water, those are not assets as far as they're concerned. The other challenge I have with the bank is the way the products are structured. For our farmers, I'm also a farmer myself, when I get my fingerlings, it takes about 8 months of continuous feeding. So I'm just putting money in, then I can start thinking of getting money out of that fish in 9 months' time. So when I borrow from the bank, and the bank tells me that I have to start paying, say, after 2 months, I mean, where do you want me to get this money from? And then the other thing is, when it comes to the collateral still, if I go there with a title, say in my name and my husband's name, and he has signed all the documents, they still want to talk to him, you know. I mean, he has signed the documents. If he went there with this, and we've had this experience, he goes there with the titles, in our names, I've signed the documents, no one wants to talk to me. But when I'm the one who presents the documents, then they want to talk to him. So I don't know what difference it makes. And I just want to assure the banks that I'm sure you know that women are very good payers. We more often than not pay our loans. So why this gender lens when we come to borrow money? Thank you.
Well, David, that's definitely for you to answer.
The brave gentleman answering the women questions. I'll start with the 10 million unsecured for, and let me start here. The APSA SHE program, SHE is See Her Empowered. Yeah, the APSA SHE program is geared towards addressing issues that are affecting women in business. So that's where we start and said, what is it that is affecting a woman to access finance? So that's where we started. I have not even come to what will the 2030 woman require, because we have done a futuristic kind of thinking what they require and preparing ourselves now. So let's start here. So number one that came up, and it cut across, is security. And that is number one thing that we wanted to address. And ladies and gentlemen in this room, that is addressed. Number one, in terms of lending, up to, and we've done this, up to 10 million unsecured. If the conversation goes above 10 million, then we bring in like-minded partners who can then guarantee the credit. Still, we are able to lend past 10 million unsecured, but there's a catch. There's always a catch. How prepared are you for this credit? Because there are things that we have to go through as a responsible lender to make sure that we're giving you this money. So to the numbers that I was asked, we have done over 2,000 women who have come and benefited from this program. That is just the one pillar of accessing finance. And we said, look, the conversation is not about security anymore. The conversation is about cash flows. Do we really understand our cash flows? Very well. To articulate when you come to the bank. So that is where the catch now starts coming in. Because how prepared are we for credit? Or we just saying, okay, fine, nipatie 3 million, nitajipanga. There's nothing like that. You have to be very articulate. You have to be
very intentional about how you're borrowing and how much you're borrowing and what is it going to be used for and how you're paying back. That I have to be convinced. Because I'm giving you this money free, almost, unsecured, and I'll need to understand then how I'm going to get paid. So in terms of access, there's a lady who asked about program for girls to access funds. And let me give you good news on what we are doing on that front. Through our Ready to Work program, we have gone to TVETs, high schools, and universities, bringing the university students together and talking to them on Ready to Work programs and entrepreneurship. I am a volunteer on that, and I speak about entrepreneurship to the girls. They ask all the questions. Would you fund my business once I am out of here and start the business immediately? Those are some of the questions that we've been answering. And going through all these institutions, passing this knowledge to them. In terms of the structure, when you're coming for funding, let me tell you, one business is very different from another. And one thing we have understood is how do we treat your business or develop a structure that speaks to you and not a vanilla kind of product that we are giving for everybody. So we listen to you, like the lady who's in the, is it fingerlings? Yeah. We have an agricultural expert who comes, visits, does a paper on exactly what you do, comes back and presents the same paper and say, this lady needs a moratorium of 9 months. Yeah. You invest now, give her 9 months. Once she sells, she will pay you within the 3 months after selling. That's the kind of structure I'm thinking top of my head. So it is not the same. Everybody's story in business is not the same. So when you come to ABSA, that is what we listen to and, marry with what we have. Let me tell you something else that we've done, and this was in the public domain. We've set aside as a bank 10 billion, and this was said by our CEO, to look at women funding only. 10 billion. Yeah? So still the collateral issue. I think it's a pain because the financial institutions have to realize that the marginalization that has happened to the women needs to be addressed. And it is not only ABSA that is going to do this. We also need other financial institutions to have a way that they can assist, because we can't do it all by ourselves. We need everybody to come to the table and address this issue that is coming. At least we are doing our bit.
All right, and with that said, since we are in this particular forum and we're here having this discussion with women who are running these SMEs, well, I'd like to ask Angela and Charity, what solutions are you looking for? What particular solutions do you have in mind when it comes to accessing capital? I'll start off with you.
When it comes to accessing capital, we're looking for solutions that are tailor-made to our situations. So, like the gentleman from ABS has just said, that they can discuss, come up with a moratorium. that is good. That can work for my farmers, for example. So we're looking for solutions that are tailor-made, and then work with us. You find that a lot of small businesses don't even have records. So if you can, be able to go through what we have and probably ask us, to put together this, that. There's a level, like in my case, we have audited accounts, but not every woman SME has that. So if you can be able to work with what they have, because I'm sure as any finance person, if you look at someone's probably money coming in and money going out, they have some basic records. See if you can work with that. And probably now that's where the BSPs come in. They can, assist in helping these women come up with their records. And then the information should be passed across. You see, like, a lot of people don't know that you can go to the bank and discuss even a tailor-made product like you're telling us now. So if that information is available to the women who need it, then they can be able to come forward and be able to access it. Thank you.
Charity, do you share the same sentiments?
Yeah, I will echo what Angela has said. It is about tailor-making the solutions. As I said, I'm in agri, which is similar to hers, but definitely our businesses are different. So it's about tailor-making the product. One of the things that we get from international financiers, and it really pains me so much, all this interest that we are paying outside the country, this is money that can be used in our economy. It's a lot. It's really a lot because, I mean, it's a business that's really highly capital intensive. We are looking at, $1 million borrowing per year. So you can imagine the interest rate. So it's quite a lot of money. So can we bring back this money into our country? Can we, have solutions for businesses like ourselves? Apart from that, what these international funders do, they actually make it sort of a requirement that you have, they lump the financing with technical assistance, which is what Angela is talking about. So it is looking at your business, where are the shortcomings? Where do you need support? Is it about HR? Is it financial modeling? Is it developing your pitch deck? Is it developing a business plan? Which area of your business or in your operations, whether it's certifications or something, and they support you with that at no extra cost because they have funded your business and they want your business to grow. So a person like our business, then I will definitely want to go back to that person because beyond just getting a financing, I'm getting something else. That technical assistance I'm getting is probably I would have paid a consultant to take care of that. But it comes on top with the financing. But how many finance institutions in Kenya are doing that? It is giving you money, your cash flows can support, you run your business. If anything happens, you still come back, knock on my door and look for your money. Without really looking at where do I need support, where, can I do better so that, my business grows and of course you keep getting your money. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Charity. Any questions from the rest of the room? Please feel free to ask.
All right,
we are here to learn.
Lina, Ed, I think I have 2 people who had
Okay.
queued it in. I don't know about the rest of the room, but let me begin right here.
And also I'd
Thank
like
you.
to add Professor Otieno has joined us. Good afternoon, Professor. It's nice to see you. Good afternoon. Well, we miss you here, but it's okay. You can still function from that end. Can you hear us? Yes, I can. My sincere apologies. We'd like to cross over to the. We have some questions in the room.
Yes,
Go ahead, sir.
my name is Gupta, and I'm from the capital markets industry. Thankfully, debt financing will no longer be the only way to go forward. Financial revolution is on the way, and we will deliver that shortly. You will now realize that it is sheer capital discussion that needs to happen in this country, and as a result, in Kenya, with all SMEs, a paradigm shift is now required and is on the way. Any balance sheet requires share capital, and businesses therefore cannot survive on debt finance alone. Ladies and gentlemen, let me say that crowdfunding, domestic crowdfunding, is on the way, finally. And as a result, this will be one of the ways for efficient, effective, swift access to share capital, which will come to the point that all businesses will be required, therefore, to sell shares to Kenyans so that they can shore up their balance sheets in order to take debt finance. Therefore, it is shares financing going forward that will deliver the kind of finance that all these businesses seek. Hundreds and thousands of businesses in Kenya. Thank you.
And thank you. Now, with that said, Professor Otieno, from where you sit, being a director of a business at the Strathmore Business School, what solutions have been made or have been proposed by research conducted by the Strathmore Business School when it comes to capital for women-run SMEs?
Yeah, just have the two challenges that are financial challenges that
Of course.
we have identified.
Of course.
One would be financial independence, and when we are talking about financial independence, sometimes the women who are running business will tell you that one of the key challenges that they face is whether they have the autonomy to make financial decisions. Meaning that even when, as one of the panelists have mentioned there about having collateral, even when you have a title in your name, still one of the challenges the women will be facing will be how do you make a financial decision, a decision when to use it as a collateral. So I think that also has come up. And also interference or what you could call diversion of those funds. So when you have business funds, you find that for women entrepreneurs, sometimes those funds get diverted into other use. I don't want to belabor on the other challenges that have been mentioned about limited financial, limited knowledge of financial access. Now, from a solution point of view, as a business school, one of the things that we are doing, and of course all academic institutions will do, is training and capacity building. That we build the capacity of entrepreneurs to try and give them the skill or to bridge the skill gap that have been identified in terms of maybe knowledge, in terms of financial records that have been mentioned here. Again, the other thing that we are doing is to collaborate with these different institutions. We are collaborating with financial institutions. Like one of our entrepreneurship program is we collaborate with NCDA, for example, and they bring their entrepreneur, so their customers, their clients, who we are training. So we do sort of what you can call a customized program for their clients, identifying their needs, and then we bring that down. We also have done influencing policies through stakeholder or dialogue, or what you might call it, dialogue with stakeholders. We have held a number of SME conferences. In fact, we have annual SME conferences. In these annual SME conferences, which are normally themed, we identify a key thematic issue, and when the entrepreneurs come together, they are networking, they share their knowledge about the different things. So that is also one of the ways in which we influence policies through those stakeholder dialogue.
And in addition,
And also we have customer solutions to entrepreneurs, because we also offer, as business school at the University of Large, we also have consultancies which can be tailor-made to entrepreneurs at different levels depending on what they are actually, what challenges they are actually facing.
okay, thank you very much, Professor. Following up on that, what are the opportunities, or rather, what opportunities do you see that exist that women SMEs can exploit? That way they can increase their market share of financing.
I think opportunities are there because right now you see that women are now coming up and even venturing into areas or sectors which were originally reserved or being seen as male-dominated. For example, in construction, road construction, green estate, and we are also talking about opportunities in exporting. So opportunities are there, and we can see that many women are now coming up. I think the opportunity that is there is for women to come together through networking and also to form consortium. Because even when it comes to maybe venturing into some businesses, when we look at opportunities for even access to government or public procurement opportunities, one of the key issues that have come up there is that maybe they cannot access funds to do large contracting. But if women come together, they can resources together and be able to do those things or service those large contracts. So I think opportunities are there, and even now when we see where we are looking at, the affirmative action also needs to be looked at in terms of something that is looking at all the ecosystem from affirmative action on the woman. But if the man is not promoted, if the capacity of the men are not big, then that is going to threaten the man, or that is going to threaten the men. So I think here the opportunity that is there is to train entrepreneurs, both women and men. We should not forget the men aside, because for as long as the women are now rising, then it is threatening the society, which is still predominantly male dominated. So I think the opportunities that are there is to identify the right mix of women, those who are already in this space, like our sister talked. Bringing the woman out. So for me, that is what I would say.
All right, thank you. Phoebe, Gabriel, and David, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the same. What are the opportunities that women can actually exploit to increase their chances of getting financing for their SMEs?
Thank you, Nina. I think to add on what Dr. Helen has mentioned, there's the aspect of crowding funding by the women for the women, where the women come together to raise funds, to lend each other to be able to do their businesses. It is already happening. Some women are raising up to about 50,000 shillings a month. If they are 20 or 30, that is quite substantial, because the banks still do not like to give money to starters. So you must start your business. And how do you do it if you don't have funds? So the women are coming together to use these platforms to be able to raise capital to start their businesses and grow. Number two is about the affirmative action. I think she's also mentioned it, but it's a very important aspect to look at, because it is engraved in our constitution, luckily for Kenyans, that 30% for any procurement is set aside for the women. So it is up to us to rise and share information about these opportunities which are existing. Not all our sisters get access to this information. So how do we share this information and the knowledge that we have to be able to access funding and opportunities of trading and doing business? Finally, I think she's mentioned about capacitating the men. It's not only capacitating, but trying to change the attitude of the men. The men have been capacitated fairly enough. The women know what they are doing. If you look at the rural setting where most of our women are, the girls know what they want, and they know how to do it. So it's the issue of capacitating the men, changing their attitude and their perception towards women that will give us some change and create more opportunities for the women.
Before you speak, a round of applause for the girl child. Thank you, Phoebe. Gabriel, the floor is yours.
I think I'll just add to what Phoebe has alluded to. First off, I would say from an advisory perspective, I think all types of structures in finance, in accessing funding, have a place. Whether you're doing debt, whether you're doing crowdfunding, whether you're doing equity conversations, it's all about at what stage of business you are at. I forgot to mention family as well, because when you're starting a business, maybe resource mobilization comes from yourself, from your savings or from your family. But they all have a role to play in terms of, it depends on what stage of business you are in. And it's important that people understand this information, not just women-led businesses, but all SMEs. They should understand this information. And most importantly, speaking to the fact that that information is what is lacking in this environment to operate in, especially in rural areas where there may be so many SMEs, especially agriculture-related SMEs in rural areas, and they're not able to access this information. Especially the fact that not many advisory businesses are actually in rural areas, but they are actually located in town. Apart from that, we are doing our part in terms of also selling ourselves and being able to create platforms where we can actually educate people on not just accessing funding, but also structuring businesses in a way that creates value for the shareholders at the beginning of the business, and also structuring in a way that they don't lose value, but also create sustainable businesses for themselves. And I think also this partnership between development partners, government, advisory services, and financial institutions actually help in terms of not just listening to the side of the resource, the people who have resources, but also listening to the challenges that businesses and SMEs face on the other side, to be able to come to an understanding where we can plug in as advisors and of financial institutions, and where we can hold hands with the people who, can I say, create value for even financial institutions. Because for financial institutions to be able to make money, they have to lend. That's the business of lending. So it's important for them to also try to not only train them, but also to listen to the stories that businesses have in those SMEs and women-led businesses. I think based on that, and also the fact that not only that women businesses cannot access debt at this point in time is a sorry state, but we believe that we can be able, women-led businesses can be able to access financing not only from banks. Sorry, my microphone seems to be misbehaving. but also to teach that there are many avenues where you can access finance. And I think that is the most important lesson for small and growing businesses at this point. Thank you.
Do you have different views, David, on the opportunities that women SMEs can exploit so as to increase their chances of getting finance?
The opportunities are immense. I mean, one thing we have discovered actually is that if you look at the woman entrepreneur and how, just the way, look at how they are, the way they bring up a family, the way they are so concerned, and transfer that to the business environment and see how that really comes out. So they have not been, they are not afraid of starting up something because they want to, look for a way to provide for the family. But I want to just speak about the 30% that is available for women, on the procurement opportunities, and how can women take advantage of that? And by taking advantage of that, how is either from the financial institutions do we support them? If you get something like an LPO and it's above, your punching weight, which I mean like it's, let's say 10 million, and you don't actually have that money, how can you be able to fund that? So that is now where we start playing in and see how can we come through for these opportunities that you've picked up from, let's say, the 30%, and assist you scale up, do this job, and pay us after. And that question at APSA, we have answered it by, up to 12 million over the LPO that you get from these 30% of opportunities for procurement opportunities, up to 12 million unsecured for LPOs. And if you've already delivered, up to 50 million invoice discounting. And all those discussions are on unsecured basis. So, and for those women that would want to acquire assets, we have a program where you come, we discuss the kind of asset that you want to do that business, and the repayment is up to 72 months and 6 months moratorium. So why do we tailor-make these solutions that way? Is by looking at what are the opportunities that are exposed to the lady, and how do we address to assist the woman scale up. But let me tell you, the women of this country, they have not fallen short of opportunities and business to do. What the financial institutions, and us included, is to create more awareness of what we are doing, how we are solutioning them, and how can we help them hold their hand as they make 2 steps. We are with them on that journey. So that is what we need them to understand, so that we move away from the security conversation to a cash flow conversation. So the security becomes secondary, because that matter has been with us for quite a long time, and now it is receiving solutions.
Angela and Charity, with all the solutions that have been mentioned on this stage, do they work for you? Do they work for you and the type of businesses that you're running? I'll start with you, Charity.
They will work.
They will.
I think I need to see David after this.
There you go.
Yeah, because it sounds like, there's something there that I don't know. But they will work if we just don't talk about them, but we actually action them, that we meet women where they are, that we provide this information, that we actually look at businesses, specific businesses, and what it is that they need. But in terms of opportunities for women, I remember when we were starting our business, when we had gone through all the 41 banks and everybody and talking to people, we ended up getting our first financing from our customer. So the customer that we had spoken to and we were now ready to start selling product to is the one who actually came and bailed us out. After our last financier said, you need to have a plan A, B, C, and D. We are just ready to start buying product, and then the financier that we are really waiting for to come through said, you need to have plan A, B, C, and D. And so we spoke to the customer and just said, we have the product, we have the factory, it is ready, so can you come in and bail us out? Yeah, so there are opportunities that I totally do agree. There are even granting organizations, there are money for proof of concept. There is a lot of money, that's the thing. But also information is not out there.
So information is not out there.
Yeah. What I'm hearing from David, I'm hearing it for the first time. Yes, and I have interacted with ABSA before. Yeah, so information is still not out there yet.
Wow. So that means we are serving the purpose of this forum anyway. That's a very good thing. Angela?
Yeah, I'd like to echo what my colleague here has said. That information is not out there. I'm also hearing about this for the first time. And David, please know that I left ABSA because of that. They frustrated me so much. After banking with them for so long, they refused to give me money, and I just said, you know what? I'll go somewhere else. So those kind of things. We're your customers. Work with us, work for us, and we'll work for you. It's a partnership situation. I'd say we are making steps in the right direction, but there's still a lot more that needs to be done. So those tailor-made solutions, speak to us, get to know what we need, what we want, and capacity builders. She said, a lot of these financiers from outside the country, they will capacity build you. They will take their time. I've worked with people who have even spent 6 months just working on our business model, our financial plan, and then at the end of that, they give you money. They're out there, they're in the US, you're in Kenya. They're going to give you money just based on the work they've done with you and what they've seen about your business, the prospects, and then they'll give you that money without asking for collateral. So if my Kenyans, who are with me here and actually understand my business, will insist on, I have to have this, that, and you're not willing to put in anything to build my capacity, Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Now let's go back to every other person who's in the room. We have a question here and a question there.
Can you hear me? All right.
Yes.
So the conversation seems to be getting very hot in the room right now, and I think we're just going to open up the segment for about 3 questions, which have been queued way earlier.
Okay.
But before giving it back, I'll probably prompt one more just to make the conversation as enhancing as possible. So maybe we can begin with Eunice.
Thank you. So first, I'd like to appreciate the panelists. My name is Kimeria, and okay. Thank you. So my name is Eunice Kimeria, the Women Economic Empowerment Director for USAID KIM. So I want to appreciate you first, our panelists, and I love the way the discussion is flowing. My quick question to you would be, I think what the women in this room want to understand is first and foremost, are we respected and a viable, equal borrower as men? That's it. I think that has to come out clearly, and I think if everyone went with that home, we would all be happy. We, as USAID KIM, that's our key conversation, and that's why we like what you're saying and would love this to really come home. Thank you.
Okay, I don't think we can leave that pending. So,
It's okay.
Nina,
How about we just let's
are
get that
women accommodated as equally as men in all of this, and what are your sentiments on the same? There's a second question here, one there, and one last one back here.
Hi, my name is Sid Ali. I am a research and innovation specialist of a Dutch-based organization that deals with sustainability. And from a European perspective, we really value women. I have a solution, and maybe my perspective, and since we are here to get solutions, and maybe women can resonate with me. I've seen a lot of ideas being presented. How do we structure them? Structured solution is very key. There are a lot of scattered solutions. Let me give you an example. Let's take solutions that have worked in other sectors and use that model. Let me give you an example. For you to be hired or even to become a professional, you pass through an institution. What if we build a powerful institution that takes in women, capacity builds them, tailor-made education based on what they want to do. For example, the brilliant lady that was focusing on agro-processing. She goes through that institution, is developed from how business is developed, economics, everything, accounting, paperwork, everything. And then the same institution goes to the bank. And these women that come from that institution are satisfied they have gone through the capacity building. And that institution will be the guarantee to that women with a framework of, for example, the government has a lot of land. Can the government allocate land to that institution as a guarantee? So the lady comes, goes through the capacity building, goes to APSA. APSA asks collateral. Then the institution has lands allocated by the government and even other donors and says, yeah, we have verified her, she's educated, go ahead, give her, we will take the guarantee for her. That's maybe one solution I was thinking. And also this institution channels funds from international donors. For example, USAID, you have 420 million investment. Can we pump money into that institution to provide the capacity building and the collaterals? by the two-third gender role is so significant that it can make you to get more market. So when a big company that doesn't have that report, even its market share start to decrease. When you have that pressure, I'm telling you, people will rush to abide by this policy. So from my perspective and from a youth perspective, and because I'm from Somali community, I've really seen the impact of women undermined. And since I work for a European organization, I understand that women are very important, but without structured solution and without pressure, we cannot get a solution. Thank you a lot.
Thank you, Ali.
All right. Thank you. That is a bit of a brainstorming session now.
Yes.
There's two more, and then maybe close the Q&A session entirely.
Okay.
Thank you very much. My name is Tendai Mtana, County Executive, Mombasa County. There are three themes that I'm picking up from your conversation. One is custom and practice. Two, wisdom and knowledge. And three is creation and access. So my question is to Dr. Otieno from Strathmore and to actually Roger in the room. And I'm going to break it down into three. Against what wall are we actually looking to move the ladder when it comes to women and capital? Because are we looking for women to access money just like men? Or how are we defining how we actually see the woman? So it's a question of perspective, which is why I went back to wisdom and knowledge. And then to my third question is, how do we co-create and co-create between financial institutions, county governments, private sector, to be able to actually redefine custom and practice using wisdom and knowledge that institutions like universities that carry out research and development do, and ensure that what we have is almost like a crowdsourcing framework, whereas counties and I sitting at a county government are able to then commit to budget a very unique program that ensures we access money. So now here is my challenge to you, Roger. How do we make the next 1 year and the 150 million that is, and I'm approximating, between what you have now and your target, how do we make it about women? And how do we determine that between the county government of Mombasa, the ABSA, the Women Enterprise Fund, USAID, that we're actually deliberate about creating a new way in which we actually see the woman? Thank you.
Well, thank you. All right, we'll start off with a question. Is there another question, darling?
Okay. Honestly, I'm seeing that the questions are becoming very many at the same time. So maybe those can be tackled. We open up for two because I'm seeing there's one critical one on the digital engagement platform.
Okay.
That may be useful to the conversation. So we can hit that, get back, then probably proceed to the session.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's start off with answering what Eunice had asked earlier on, which is, and by the way, she was very direct. The question was, are women respected and viable, equal borrowers as men? Ukweli. We'll start, of course, the gentleman in the room will start off. Let's hear from you, David.
Okay, let me have a look, take on that from the ABSA perspective and how we see it. Not only are we respecting women and assisting them to scale up, but we're also going to where they are. Let me tell you, there are different categories of business women and they understand different languages. They are the elite
And we also have got women with informal businesses. Let me tell you where we go to talk to these women. Recently, we went to church on a Sunday to meet 70 SEK Mothers Union business women, just to talk to them on what is it we are offering and how we can assist them scale. We have partnered with KNCCI, and this was in the news, and we impacted over 2,000 women, going from county to county, town to town, saying, you know what, come, let us have this discussion, let us talk. And there are a lot of themes that came out that then inform how do we tailor-make our solutions to address the emerging issues that are affecting women, because they keep on changing, and every woman's story is different from the other. Recently, today is it's Tuesday, on Sunday, we met the Catholic Women Association here, and we talked about our solutions. So we are going to, let me give you a last one, the Ruach Shipreneur. 350 women, we put them in a conference, like then talked to them, and they asked the hard questions. So we are going to where the woman is, and I can dare say we're even in WhatsApp groups of the woman in downtown. They have got WhatsApp groups. You know, for you to get to where the woman is, they're in their chamas, be there. They're in their WhatsApp groups, be added a member, so that when they ask these questions, you are there to offer a solution. So we are not only coming to, to a podium speaking, we are actually going to where you're doing your business and saying, this is what we have for you. And speaking that language that you understand, not English. We want to speak Sheng, we want to speak your mother tongue. Even on radio stations, we are there saying, women, listen to us speak in the language you understand. And this is our solution that we are giving to you. We might have not attained our numbers because our number, we want to reach 1 women, impacting 1 million women. But it's a step at a time. And I appreciate your feedback on the frustrations you're getting, and we appreciate feedback because it makes us better. And now, actually, the conversation what come is absolutely going to be different because now we understand the woman. And I like what Tendai, if I got your name right? Yes. And what he said, let me tell you, for you to understand, you have to define who a woman is and what her needs and at what point of the spectrum are you solutioning her. Some women need finance immediately, others need mentorship and coaching. So as they come through to ABSA through the ABSA She account, we are not saying that you're just coming for money. Maybe you need access to markets. That's what you need. Others need financing. Others need mentorship and coaching. Others need information. So it's different. So we continually curate what is best for you. It's like a financial clinic. And then we start having clinics for each and every woman because we say, speak to your banker. Let us hear you and tailor-make solutions that are geared towards your business. Speak to your banker. There are 3 people you're supposed to speak to. And I know most women and most gentlemen here know who. Your lawyer, your banker, and you know the other one. Thanks.
Eunice, do you feel like he's addressed our question well? Thumbs up if you feel like you have been very nice, very nice. Now, Professor Otieno, good afternoon once again.
Nina, sorry for that. Yeah. Thank you, David. I would like to hear from the BASPs, Lamiro and Gabriel. Please do a rejoiner. I know it's your key conversation, and that's why I would like it to be on the floor, so that all the women here, as they leave today, they understand especially your services in hand-holding them and ensuring that you are walking the journey with them.
Thank you very much. In terms of do financiers respect women, I think they have started respecting women. They have started listening and curating, solutions for women businesses. Frankly, they were not there before. They had vanilla solutions for everyone. So I think they are starting to do it now. However, the conversation needs to keep on going because, as one Sid, I think Sid said that we need to keep on creating that pressure. We need to keep on talking about women financing, women businesses, and how to curate solutions for them. On our part as advisors, what we do is we try to find, create networks where we not only, our main core business is to understand the business you are fundraising for. So why we do that is because we want to structure and tailor-make solutions based on understanding the woman's business and be able to offer them a solution that is not only favorable for them, that either means going to a bank or looking for an equity partner or looking for a working capital support based on other financing institutions, but to also work with them, even if it means that we are creating structures within the business to enable them not only to move away from, as I think Charity mentioned, the idea is not only to be able to access financing at that cost right now, but to be able to move her business from only being to access that financing, but to find cheaper solutions for them as they grow. So at the end of the day, it's we work with the business to tailor-make solutions that are fit for the financiers on the other side. Yeah, thank you.
And Phoebe, before you answer that question on whether women are viable to get financing as much as men, after you answer that question, actually, not before, after you answer that question, tell us, are we moving towards the right direction when it comes to women financing? Because what Gabriel has said is women have started being respected. Yeah? So I want to know, are we on a good trajectory from where you sit?
Thank you, Nina. Thank you, David. About 15 years ago, Barclays Bank, which is now ABSA, was not able to fund any mortgage for any woman who was not married officially. That has changed. So we are progressing. Okay. It's a tall order, I said, and I'll still repeat, to package a woman entrepreneur for a bank to give a nod. However well you package, however well the financials are kept, however well the business plan is, David, I'm sorry, but the collateral still will haunt you because it is something which you've enshrined in your borrowing and lending system. For you to attain respect to a lot of financial institutions, your balance sheet must be good, your turnover must be good, you must be ongoing. For you to get that respect, those three things must be happening. Then they can start talking to you, then they can start listening to you, then they'll be able to consider you. On moving forward, I think there's a lot of what I'll call opportunities that are enabling the women entrepreneurs both at the bottom of the pyramid and up to corporate. Specifically, I have a lot of respect for women entrepreneurs, right from the Mama Mboga to the Tabithas of Keroche of this nation. For you to get to that level, there's been a lot of sacrifice, there's been a lot of pain, but we are moving. Personally, I've supported women at all cadres, from the bottom of the pyramid, the middle cadre, and even at the corporate level. The music is the same. So it is up to us to repackage ourselves. It is also up to the bank to come up with products that will be able to include women and give us softer landing grounds because we are not equal. At the borrowing table, we are not equal. You heard Dr. Helen saying that even if I have a collateral that is reading Phoebe Award alone, I still have to talk to this Dr. Wood to give me consent to charge that title. And when I go with it to the bank will still tell me, where is this award? So there's no equality yet. There's no equality yet. And those are very fundamental issues that we need to address. Finally, on that one, Nina, who actually borrows the money? Even if the money is given to the woman, who utilizes that money? And who repays that money? Thank you.
All right. Professor Otieno, if you're still with us, there was a discussion, rather, there was a question coming from the audience. And the question was, how do we structure the solutions? Because we've all spoken about different solutions. You've offered solutions as the conversation has been ongoing. So what I was getting from Ali is that there's so many solutions, but the reason why at the end of the day they're not properly implemented is because there's actually no particular structure. What are your sentiments on that, Dr. Okay, Prof. And we also had Tandai who was asking, against what wall are we moving the ladder to women financing? Against what wall are we moving the ladder for women financing?
In all of those sectors. And we are now seeing many and many more women moving to higher sectors. So we can move them. And that basically means that they are in all of those sectors. And we are now seeing many and many more women moving to higher sectors. So we can move them. And that basically means that they are in all of those sectors. And we are now seeing many and many more women moving in all of those sectors. And we are now seeing many and many more women moving to sectors. So we can move them. And that basically means that they are in all of those sectors. And we are now seeing many and
Now back to the panelists in the room. We are winding up our conversation. So as we wind up and as you give us your closing remarks, let's talk matters solutions, because that's where we're at right now. What
Nina,
are the best practices that can be implemented? Yes.
Sorry, I think I just want to throw a spanner into the works a little bit into your conversation.
Go ahead.
And this is really to the financial institutions, largely. In around February, I conducted a research on citizen participation in public finance management and debt in Kenya. And our particular unit of analysis was the informal sectors, especially women in the informal sectors, because they are largely affected by financial management decisions as well as debt decisions. And I came to realize that these women are organized in Rotary groups, which are called the chamas. Yeah? And one thing women said is that they feel very safe. They feel financially secure being in these respective groups than actually transferring responsibility to banks or any other kind of institutions. What do you have to say about that? Absa, I'm looking at you.
It's been a heavy one for him today. It's been really heavy.
No, like I said, I'm strong he for she. So, let's yeah, and there's an echo. Sorry. If you look at the league or where the women are playing, it's varied. And the reason why they feel safe to be in those groups is because that is what has worked for them, because they're coming from a perception where banks were not really opening up their arms for them, and even if they were, the conditions, like she said, were really tough. Yeah, but you see, we have evolved by listening to the woman and her needs. And not only have we listened, we have gone to where they are and told them this is what we can do. And not only have we talked about it, we've done it. So we have not yet reached where we want to go in terms of reaching out to all women in the informal, settlements. But our road to that end, we can see it. And the other reason why they are comfortable there is because of what are the conditions that I'm getting when I borrow from another? This lady knows me, this one knows me, so they can give me a 50,000 easily. So then we went back to the table and asked ourselves, how can we handle this kind of woman who's asking this by understanding her? So we have come up with solutions like on, let me tell you, the women on that spectrum, what they want is money now, and to return the money to you after 2-3 days. That's how we have understood them, because there's the same concept that they are doing on the table banking and those associations. And to sort out that end, because sometimes you've borrowed here, but there's a deal here, you need to work on it. We have transferred that to our Timiza platform. Timiza is an online infrastructure that you go in there, ask for a facility, pay it when you want. So that between 0 and 300,000, we can transfer them that side. Because we don't want paperwork, we don't want anything. We want you to get the money, do your business, and come back. But when the conversation starts from 300 to millions, then we want to understand your business. We want to work with you. We want to be able to offer advisory and such kind of things. So it is different. At what stage are we playing in through our customer value propositions, and making sure that the propositions we are developing on that area are addressing those issues. It is progressive. We haven't reached where we want to be, but it's a journey that we are walking, and we are now walking actually much faster.
Okay, thank you, David. Any of our panelists who wants to add to what David has said? Not at all. Fantastic. Okay, so as we wind up, my dear panelists, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk matters solutions, and we're talking long-term and short-term solutions. And we will start with you, Phoebe. What What are the long-term and short-term solutions that can be implemented to strengthen financing for women SMEs, according to you? And as we wind up, you'll also give us your closing remarks. Is that okay?
Thank you, Nina. I think I have about 4 or so short-term, and that is about the institutions, the financial institutions, being able to share information appropriately and timely. Whatever products you have, look for forums where you can share that with the uptakers, who are the business people. And the same goes to Dr. Helen. The research institutions also have a lot of findings, which many at times are kept in the shelves and are not shared out for applicability. I had mentioned earlier about awareness creation and sensitization of our husbands, brothers, and fathers for change of attitude. A little change of attitude towards women doing business, women borrowing, and women being able to pay back. And this, I think, is for the development partners, the research institutions, the financial institutions, and the support mechanism to the businesses. There's a lot of money on the ground from the informal sector. You find women keeping up to about 5 million shillings in their homes when it is collected, or up to 10, and there's a lot of risk onto it. Come up with the situations or solutions where you can tap into this money, formalize that lending system, and make it practical and sustainable for them. There's the initiatives like where we are today with Kim. I think this was a very interesting initiative, and we hope that the part which has been done, and this is to you, Roger. Mr. Kimithi has gone now. Send him the word. I think what has been done is quite good so far, but there's the aspect of sustainability of such an initiative, and we need to have the demand-driven approach, where the demand is coming from the banks and the demand is coming from the enterprises, and demand can only come when there's exchange of returns and remuneration for both parties. So that is mutual. Yeah. And finally, to my fellow girls in the house, I don't know what percentage, because one person wrote to me today and said, how come there are so few girls in the house? Let's just raise our hands, girls. Not 2 hands, just 1. Yeah, Roger, you've done well. Fairly good number.
A round of applause for Rogers, eh?
Yeah. I think what we need to do is to share information. It's the most powerful tool you can ever have. It's more powerful than the money. I know, David, you believe that money is the most sought out after. But I think I want to change your attitude that the most powerful tool for any success is information. God bless.
Thank you. Professor, if you're still with us, we'd like to hear your parting shot.
And when I'm talking about the financial infrastructure, and when I'm talking about the financial infrastructure that has already been identified, and how do we ensure that we sustain it? Because sustainability there is key. The other one I wanted is to talk about the ecosystem, that we need to look at the whole ecosystem, entrepreneurial ecosystem, and not to use approach as a collective approach, so that here finance is just one part of the story, and from what is coming on the floor, we need all the approach as a collective approach, so that here finance is just one part of the story, and from what is coming on the floor, we need all the approach as a collective approach, so that here finance is just one part of the story, and from what is coming on the floor, we need all the ladies approach, so that here finance is just one part of the story. And from what is coming on the floor, we need all the approach as a ladies approach, so that here finance is just one part of the story. And from what is coming on the floor, we need all the approach as a ladies approach, so that here finance is just one part of the story. And from what is coming on the floor, we need all the approach as a ladies approach, so that here finance is just one part of the story. And from what is coming on the floor, we need all the approach as a ladies approach, so that here finance is just one part of the story. And from what is coming on the floor, we need all the approach as a ladies approach, so that here finance is just one part of the story. And from what is coming on the floor, we need all the approach as a ladies approach, so that here finance is just one part of the story. And from what is coming on the floor, we need all the approach as a ladies approach, so that here finance is just one part of the story. And from what is
Thank you, and thank you very much. That is Professor Helen Otieno. Gabriel, your parting shot.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just to appreciate everyone that is on the panel and also the questions that came out from the audience. For the short term, I think the solutions for the short term, especially for the advisory service providers, I think it's just to keep on reaching out and spreading out the word that basically, because we offer aids to trade. So basically for us is to be able to share that knowledge. I think we sit in a position where we could be able to provide that, and not only provide that knowledge, but also to help women businesses to structure their businesses in a way that financial institutions and other funders can be able to fund them. In the second, and I think more importantly also, the partnerships that are being created, not only in this room, but everywhere, in terms of financiers, investors, and they keep on talking. And also to realize that, especially for the financial institutions, probably you'll not be able to do everything. But also partnering with advisory service providers and also development partners could help also being able to reach your customers in the rural settings and other towns where you're not so strong. I think some information, and I think I was talking to some of the SMEs, some of this information, for you to know about it, you must be in Nairobi. So it is good for a trickle down towards also empowering the people working down in mashinani to be able to also have the same information and same platform to structure solutions for women-owned businesses. In the midterm to long term, I think research and also policy change could be one of the key areas to also look at. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Gabriel. Now, for Angela and Charity, the question going to you guys is different. Being the owners of this small and medium enterprises, what are you taking home after this forum today? What's your take home?
One is that David has money for women that we need to have a conversation about, but also information. You know, the fact that he's sitting just next to me and I didn't have that information is power, and we need to disseminate this information. But one thing that I learned in our journey of accessing financing is that at the end of the day, a financial institution will not fund a business just because it is woman-led, women-owned. It has to be a viable business. And that is where a business development service provider comes in. And I applaud Kim for having that, as part of accessing financing. That we are not just telling the woman, go to this bank and access financing, but we are supporting the women entrepreneurs to structure their businesses or to make them investment ready. So that's very important. However,
so that means that
Sorry?
Hatuonewi kama wanawake. They're not being mean to us.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
However, Angela and I are privileged because we are in Nairobi, we are educated, we can have this information. When we talk about women in the rural areas, do they actually know? Do they know where they can access this kind of support, this kind of business management training, this kind of, deal structuring and all that, that technical jargon? Do they know who they need to approach to have this information and to, get support to structure their businesses? Then the other thing is, so now that aspect of sustainability comes in. This is a 5-year project. So what happens after that? How can we trickle down the business development services to, women in the rural areas? So the point is that a business must be viable for it to be financed, whether it is woman-owned or woman-led. And for us, that's what we got to a point and said, okay, we are not now looking for any financing. We need to get our business investment ready. And I'm happy to see, I guess I had somebody from TBN. We went to TBN. We were part of their program, and that really helped us to structure our business, put the right systems, hire the right people. Then you can go have a conversation with the financials.
Angela?
Thank you very much. I'd say that the financial landscape is changing. Women are being recognized. I wouldn't say we are respected yet, but we're being recognized. So the finances are looking at us as a force to be reckoned with. So they are making efforts to reach out to us, which I think is very good. So it's steps in the right direction. A lot needs to be done, and information is the most important for me, because many people, many women who can actually benefit from this information do not have the information. And then as well as information, I'd say that capacity building of these women and sensitizing of the men. Very important. Those two need to go hand in hand. So if you have the information, you capacity build, you sensitize the men, and then like she said, we need to have bankable businesses and viable business, because your business could be bringing in a lot of revenue, but you're not necessarily making any profit. You're not going to pay the bank from your capital. So we need to be making profit. So we need to also run efficient businesses that are documented, because your business could be so good, but without that documentation, you're not going to benefit from the financial services. Then the other thing also is that when we as women have the benefit of having access to this information, let's pass it on to other women. Let's not just stick with it as our own. I mean, if we want to move very far, we need to go together. If we want to move very fast, I'll do it on my own and go, but I'll leave very many women behind. So I believe that we should work together and always build other women around us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angela.
I notice time is up. So if I could be allowed 2 minutes just to share what are my thoughts and insights into this program that we are having of financing women from the APSA's perspective, and what do I think is the short-term and long-term initiatives that should be put in place by woman-owned and led businesses. First of all, at APSA we look at, under the SHE program, we look at businesses that are owned 50 plus 1% by a woman. Anything below that, that belongs to the man. So we don't touch. We touch for businesses that are 50% owned or wholly owned by the woman. But what do I see, and what is my parting shot and advice to women is businesses grow. Ladies, let us be prepared to grow. Let us be prepared to grow and make sure that our growth is something that we've thought about. We see businesses that don't have values. What are your values? Do you have them? Can you write them down? So let us have values as a business. In terms of markets, let's think regional and global. A speaker said that by the fact that your business is in Kitale doesn't mean that you only sell to locality in Kitale. It's just that that is the place where you've set up your business. You can sell in Uganda, Rwanda. You can even sell in Dubai. So let us think regional and global, and let's stay organized as ladies. Let's stay organized. I mean, pay your taxes, have your information with you, because when you're going to the bank or a financier, that's what they need to look at. Otherwise, how will I be able to know what your turnovers are? Let us open bank accounts and make sure that we are channeling our funds there. That is the only way I can be able to know how your turnovers, what your turnovers are. And then on my parting shot, at APSA we champion 4 pillars only. And those are access to finance, markets, access to business-related information like she-trades, and also access to mentorship and coaching. Mentorship and coaching, you must have realized we had the Inspire Me conference, which most of the ladies were there. And today morning, we had the succession planning webinar. We had Professor Wangombe, talking, and a lawyer lady talking about the succession issues that are affecting women. That is through listening to women. And then we realized that we have to incorporate others to work with us this journey. And through the APSA She Stars, you can log into APSA She Stars and be part of somebody who's going to be trained to also pass this message to a fellow woman. And lastly, on the, how do you access this? Of course, through the APSA She account, for you to access all this. And also networking and interactions. Just making sure that your network is your net worth. That is what we are about at APSA, and that is what we champion. And now we are understanding the business, the ladies' business DNA. And that's what we are curating to make sure that we are solutioning every other lady out there. So thank you so much, and even for the invitation, and for the ladies and the gentlemen in the room. Thank you.
Thank you, David. A round of applause for each and every one of our panelists. We have come to the end of this Women Economic Empowerment Forum, Unlocking Capital for Women Entrepreneurs. And it's been a good conversation that does not end here. The conversation continues in our social media platforms. The hashtag today was hashtag USAID Kim Learning Event. We have been live on YouTube and Facebook, so you can actually get this whole conversation and go and watch ourselves, yeah? We can get... So thank you so much. It has been an honor being your moderator this evening. My name is Nina Shaban. Again, just to appreciate our panelists virtually, we had Professor Helen Otieno, who is the Director of Business at Strathmore Business School. My farthest right is Phoebe Awor, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Lamere Consult. Next to Phoebe, we have Gabriel Mungai, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Raising Capital. Then we have our female SMEs. That's Angela Odero, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Rio Fish, and Charity Ndegwa, who is the co-founder and Director of Operations of Exotic EPZ. And finally, financial institutions, the one who's been attacked the most, David Onundu, who is a SME cluster manager at APSA SME Banking. A round of applause once again. I'll hand it over to you, Loretta.
All right. Thank you so much, our moderator and our panelists, for that discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome on stage Roger Bard, USAID's Kenya Investment Mechanism Chief of Party, to officially close this specific session and just give us a few sentiments on what he's thought about it.
Thank you so very much. And this panel has activated me so much that I just could not help myself to bring out a few key points that I think are really significant for not only Kenyan Investment Mechanism and what USAID's goals and objectives are to push through us, but more importantly, really the really objectives that these panelists have raised in terms of the need in the market. And there's a few things I'd like to point out. First, Waziri Tendai, thank you for asking the question about what are we trying to achieve here? And it is really quite simple from our perspective. What we're trying to do is we're trying to promote equal access to resources and equal control over resources. That's the ladder we're trying to move, or that's the ladder on the wall that we're trying to move. Equality. And when we talk about the various businesses, we talk about good businesses. If it's not a good business, it doesn't matter if it's a woman-owned business or a male-owned business. Bad business is bad business. But what we're trying to be able to promote here is equal access to both resources and equal access or control over resources for good businesses. And David, thank you so very much for taking one for the financial sector team. You carried the weight well, my friend. Congratulations. Yes. I've been a banker for 40 years, and it takes bravery to do what David just did. And so thank you for that. And I think what's really important here to recognize is that this was one voice. And ABSA is progressive. And while there are certain elements that we can highlight of some progress, the reality is we are just scratching the surface. We're just really starting to address the real challenges. And we need that to sink into the financial sector to be able to actually help move that needle. And I challenge the financial sector to do that. We talk about collateral. Collateral cuts across both men and women. However, when you start talking about equality of access and control over resources, that's where the gender bias comes in. And so what I want to challenge the financial institutions to do in Kenya is come up with better solutions for regulations and work with the central bank to change those regulations in such a way that they are not penalized when they make viable loans to businesses on an unsecured basis. The financial institutions have their arms tied somewhat when it comes to collateral. And it's time that the financial institutions stop hiding behind those regulations and get out in front of it to find solutions to move Kenya forward. And that doesn't matter if it's a woman-owned business or not. But the women-owned businesses are being penalized more than men. And that's where we want some equality. My friend from the CMA mentioned it earlier, and I think this is one of the up-and-coming things that is going to be a bit of an equalizer, and that is crowdsourced funding. The reality of, the regulations of allowing crowdsourced funding to take place in Kenya is coming, and it's coming very soon. Kenyan Investment Mechanism has been working hand in hand with CMA on regulations for new listing rules on the Securities Exchange and being able to endorse and help bring crowdsourced funding. And once that happens, crowdsourced funding is an equalizer. And I think that would be one of the elements to be of value. And was there anything else? Phoebe and Gabriel, thank you for the work you do. Phoebe, thank you for your advocacy and support. That's the kind of voice we need constantly. So very much appreciate that voice. You know, I'm not the right person to stand up here and talk about gender equality. Because the fact of the matter is, I actually do not understand it like these women entrepreneurs just explained. There's not a man in this room who can understand it like they do. And so it's time that we men open our ears and start listening. And we find solutions. to the entrepreneurs, we need your voice in the room to learn. It's why we create forums like this. But it's your journey. It's your story of origin. It's your successes. It's the challenges. That's what we need to hear. We need to hear it loud, and we need to hear it clear, and we need to hear it often. So please, continue to stand up and tell your story, and tell the truth about where it's been problematic, because we cannot move forward without that. Thank you for giving me an opportunity. I promised my team that I would be a listener, but I just could not help myself with a great panel, a great group of panelists, and the opportunity to recognize that we actually have a long way to go in our learning journey. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Roger Bard. Esteemed guests, we are very proud to have had you today. And the conversations have been very interesting throughout the day. And now I just want to invite two people to recap the entire day and tell us what has stood out, what lessons have we learned in the process, and what has it really been like. First is George, who is a media communications and public relations professional who has specialized in creation and implementation of strategic communication strategies, media relations, development communication, and stakeholder engagement. He is the current communications director for USAID's Kenya Investment Mechanism. Secondly is Lucas Barake, who is the monitoring and evaluation director and acting deputy chief of party at the USAID Kenya Investment Mechanism. He has over 19 years working experience in designing and implementing effective results measurement systems and overseeing program delivery in various sectors. He holds a master's degree in environmental studies and an undergraduate degree in environmental planning and management from Kenyatta University. Gentlemen, I think you can take it away from here.
I can use this. Thank you very much for that introduction, and our work here is pretty much easy. We have had a really exciting day. We have had over 130 of people actually in here in person, and hundreds of others on Zoom, on Facebook, on YouTube, following the sessions live. And that is to really say thank you for everyone who has joined. And my work with Lucas is pretty easy. It's really to just look at what has been the day about. And we started by Roger explaining that what we do is actually to activate private sector capital into underserved markets, trying to be like that, the bridge between who have money and who don't have money, who need money, so that they can actually work closely together. Roger did mention that to date, we have been able to mobilize over 485,000 US dollars against a target of 520. And he went ahead and just explained the sort of partnerships we have established, touching on some of the lessons that we have been able to learn. And so I am going to turn into to my colleague to just let me know, the first session, what stood out for you the most? You have a microphone over there.
Thanks so much, George. It has indeed been a very productive day. Many lessons coming up, very interesting discussions that have come up from the panelists, the participants. It has been very enriching. George, you can actually do a book from the lessons, the discussions that we have had today. So it is not easy to summarize that in 5 minutes, but we'll take some few pointers of what came out in the first session. Remember, this is where we were talking about financial innovations development and uptake. And there are several key things that came up. Of course, we heard about the launch of specialized agribusiness lending products with the best practice including taking a holistic approach, that when you are developing these products, you need to go to the market. You need to feel the ground. Things can be different. Yeah, that the ground can be different. So you need to take a very holistic approach and also look at the value chain and tailoring the product to the timing, volumes, and direction of cash flows, and an understanding of all the relationships among farmers, processors, input providers, exporters, and all value chain actors. Very holistic approach. And then we also learned about the increasing embrace and integration of digital solutions. Digital solutions, very key, to improve the efficiency of bank operations and also enable faster, more convenient customer applications, disbursement, and repayment. You heard of Peter Ndirangu, Head of Finance at Specialized Financial Services at FACTS, talking about their supply chain finance, the factoring, invoice financing, very innovative indeed, trying to address issues around the collateral that we are talking about, what is emerging as a key challenge. There are innovations in the market, including the approach that Ndirangu mentioned. And then, of course, Family Bank. They also talked of the innovation that is coming up, and look out, in the next 30 days, something is coming up, addressing the women issues, a product specifically targeting the needs of women entrepreneurs. That is coming up. And of course, we heard about how BASPs are helping to close the gap between SME capabilities and what banks are looking for in loan clients.
Wow, thank you so much, Lucas, for the summary of that first day. And on the second session that we held, it was really all about technology, a subject that personally I am very, very passionate about. And we looked at how technology-enabled solutions deployed into rural areas. And we heard from leaders such as iProcure and Inspira Farms, who have leveraged the data collected and on their platforms, and been able to use that data to deploy solutions that really address the needs of their clients. We understood that from these both companies, they have been more recently successful in raising fairly large amounts of capital, and it is just because of how they are using data to make the investors make decisions about the solutions they are offering. Success raising such funds require the ability to speak the language, knowledge which investors are interested in, which businesses, and the ability to keep focus on the running of a sustainable solution or a sustainable business. And while you are seeking financing, then to their point, what came out so strongly from these two businesses was that you cannot do this alone as an entrepreneur. Even if you have understood how to leverage technology to use data, you need the services of a business advisor, a business advisory service providers. And that is one of the reasons we are holding this session, so that we can offer SMEs, entrepreneurs, the opportunity to network with those business advisors who can help you successfully raise capital, even as you are using data for your business. So Lucas, can you give us some highlights from USAID's address?
Indeed, George. This is what we had from Benson Committee. Of course, first of all, recognizing the partnership that we're having between the US government and Kenyans to work together to facilitate county and private sector-led development in Kenya. You can remember the issue around Kenya-led, Kenya-owned, Kenya-managed solutions to Kenyan issues, an opportunity for collaborating, learning, and adapting. And overall, of course, looking at the desire of the USAID to see that all Kenyans are benefiting from the development process, and at the end of the day, they are contributing to Kenya's economic development. Partnership, a key theme that is also emerging. Partnership between the private sector, the public, government-to-government partnerships, very important indeed.
Thank you so much, Lucas. And after Benson Kimithi, we managed to hear from our chief guest, who really spoke so eloquently and expressed his appreciation to USAID and the American people for the partnership that and the collaboration they have had with Kenyans towards shared prosperity. And he said that he really appreciates the work that USAID has been able to do through Kenya Investment Mechanism. He resonated with the themes of this learning event, whereby he said he likes it being anchored on access and impact for shared prosperity. What